This is Trigger Point, Episode 3. My name's Serena, and sitting across from me is my co-host Peter. Hello, Peter.
Hello, everyone.
So, I guess people could notice immediately that the sound quality is different from our previous episodes. Why is that, Peter?
Well, as everyone probably have realized now, we're not doing this podcast at our normal studio, my house. We are now at a McDonald's in Hong Kong. And why?
Because we happen to both be holidaying in the same country pretty much at the same time.
So we decided, hey, let's, try to do a podcast somewhere else instead of our usual.
Well, originally we thought we were going to do it in a quieter cafe, except it is now midnight and
everything is closed.
Yes.
Yes, we thought we were going to do this at least 3 hours beforehand. Unfortunately, certain things got in the way, so it's now midnight in Hong Kong.
And the only thing opening at midnight on a Sunday in Hong Kong is the McDonald's.
Yes, so excuse us for the terrible quality in terms of audio format.
And we might ramble a bit more because I will have a hard time editing this episode.
Yeah, there's going to be no editing. Because it's going to be quite difficult for Serena here to try and edit stuff out. Anyway.
But there's something else you need to apologize for, don't you, Peter?
Yes. So before I go on, I need to apologize to all our listeners. We did mention in our last podcast that we were going to do Stranger Things for this particular podcast. Now, unfortunately, due to things outside my control, well,
really?
Some of them outside my control, I still haven't watched it yet. Sorry.
Yeah.
So this podcast will not be focusing on Stranger Things. We'll leave that for next podcast, our next episode. Instead, today we are going to do our podcast on a short audio book called The Dispatcher. And who is
written by John Scalzi.
Yeah.
And the reason why we chose The Dispatcher is first, there's a short story, so there's only 2 hours, and Peter should be able to hear it, finish the book before we needed to record. And secondly, now if you remember from the first, I think it was the first episode, Peter had mentioned why he didn't want to do audiobooks is because he didn't want to hear another person's interpretations of the word. Now, The Dispatcher was written specifically by John Scalzi for an audiobook format. Like the physical book is not released yet. It came out first as an audiobook. So I thought, if there's ever going to be a book that I could get Peter to listen in audiobook format, this will be it. Now, so Peter, after listening to John Scalzi's Dispatcher, which is currently free from Audible right now, so I'll put a link in there and people should go and download it and listen to it. Now that we've listened to it, Peter, what do you think of audiobook as a format?
So, after listening to my first foray into audiobooks, I still maintain that it is not the best medium. I do not believe audiobook is a great format, especially for a book. There's quite a few issues that I have with it, and I will mention that in a second. But no, okay, to be fair, after my first few hours into it, it got better in the sense that I got used to it. And once you get used to the format, it's slightly less irritating. But I still have to say I didn't enjoy it rather as a book itself. I still think I would much prefer having an actual book in front of me so that I can read it.
Okay. Do you want to say any of the specific reasons why you didn't like?
Okay, so
an audiobook?
Okay.
Or are you okay saying that that's the reason why?
No. I have plenty of things to say why I don't like audiobook as a format. Okay, firstly, there is a lot of he said, she said in an audiobook, and especially with regards to this audiobook.
Only at the start.
Because this is the only audiobook that I've actually listened to, so I'm only basing this on my first, experience with audiobook. Okay, the first time I've listened to this audiobook, especially in the first 2 chapters, there is a lot of he said, she said, blah, 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 blah. So,
which John Scalzi is, he does that often.
yeah. But as a book format, you can, as a reader, I can glance over those. When I'm reading a book, I see he said blah blah blah. He said that. You naturally block those things out. You naturally kind of go, okay, that's not something that's really important for me. I'm just going to skip over those 2 words and just go into the conversation. When it's an audiobook format, unfortunately, it's constantly in the foreground. I didn't think it would annoy me that much, but it turns out it does, because it's okay, and it's not something that you would normally realize. And to be fair, when I reread a lot of my other novels, it turns out that yes, that happens a lot in most novels. It doesn't annoy me when it's in a book form because I glance over those. My mind naturally goes into that mode, like that's not important. Go into the dialogue. And when I'm listening to an audible book, I can't get away from it. It's constantly bringing me back to the fact that it's like, yes, someone is saying this.
I think it's more of a situation where you're not used to the format. I think that after a while, just like how when you read physical words, you start to not notice the he said, she said. With audiobooks, at the same time, you stop hearing.
And I agree. It may come to a point that if I listen to enough audiobooks, it will kind of go away. In saying that, in a normal book, and I'm saying, look, I don't remember when I first read my book, 30 years ago or something, but it's never gone to the point where it's irritated me.
Well,
it has
when
never.
we first read it, we didn't know that
exactly.
Stuff would be...
But in saying that, it's never irritated me. Listening to this audiobook, immediately, that's one of the first things that I would go like, oh my god, he said something again.
No.
She said something again. Like, and I know it's not fair on the audiobook because it is a new media, but I can't help but like notice it every single time that thing's brought into my mind. To be fair, in this audiobook though, later on in the later chapters, it does do a lot less of it, which is good because then I go like, yay! Finally, I'm not like constantly being dragged back into. He said something, she said something, which is good. So that's better. But it still annoys me.
I think it depends on the book. Some books don't, right? Like, supposedly better writers don't use he said, she said so much.
Yes, that is true. But in this one, it does. So that's all I'm basing it on.
I shouldn't say that. Okay, John Scalzi is a pretty good writer from my point of view.
Yeah, but he still does it. To be fair, J.K. Rowling does a lot of he said, she said. So
she's not a great. Stories are fantastic.
Yes, I think we both agree she's probably not the best writer there is. But
oh god, I just realized so many fans would hate us after we said that.
Probably.
And we can't edit this.
Oh well.
Oh well.
Oh well. Okay. Second thing that I hated about an audiobook. This audiobook was narrated by Zachary Quinto,
whom I love.
Who I admit is a very, very good narrator when he's talking in the like not first person, when he's talking in the third person, and when he's talking as the main character. I think he was brilliant. He did everything I envisaged the main character to be. The way he says the lines. When you listen to him first speak, it fits the main character perfectly, and I loved it. Now, my problem is, in an audiobook, it's never about one character. You never listen to just the voice of one character. It's always a multitude of characters. So you've got the main character, you've got the female lead, you've got a lot of other people in this story.
But normally you only have one narrator.
And
it really depends on the narrator whether they're able to do different voices.
Yes. And my point is, while I think Zachary Quinto was brilliant as the main character, every time he goes into the female voice, it jars me. Like, it's not like he does specifically, he does like it's not like he deliberately goes into a higher pitched voice or goes into falsetto to sound female, but certain inflections and certain ways he speaks, it does try to become more feminine in his voice. And in particular, there was a few key scenes in the thing when the female lead raises her voice and tries to make a point, and his voice goes up just slightly higher pitched than I would have liked for his voice in particular. It just sounds a bit strained to me, and it's every time I listen to it, I'm like, oh, that's uncomfortable. Every time I listen to him say that, it's like, oh, that's quite uncomfortable. I don't want to hear him keep on going down. I'm like, just stop. Like, I don't want to hear him try to use that voice. It's like, speak normally. It's fine. Like, don't go like, oh, and then he goes, something like that. I can't do it, obviously.
I agree that with audiobooks, the problem there is sometimes narrators try to make an accent or try to make a voice that they're not very good at, and then you have to deal with it. You've got to put up with, really bad Indian accents or very bad Asian accents or something.
Which I don't have to do if I was reading the book myself, because that's all in my head. I can think all of those things to myself. I don't have to listen to someone trying to implant on me that this is the female voice. As I say, it's not that bad, but
I understand that, and that is a negative for audiobooks. But in this book, I really don't think he did a bad job with female voices. I actually felt it was quite good. But of course, this is a personal choice. Stop looking at me like that, Peter. It's a personal choice.
You like Zachary Quinto. Whatever comes out from his mouth, you probably would like. Okay, that's probably not fair to say that. But I still maintain, as I said, I loved his interpretation and his way of delivering the male voices. The female voice, it's not like he deliberately goes into falsetto or he
I think it's also at the start. Later on,
it's probably not as obvious later on as well, but especially when you first meet
Detective
Langdon, it becomes quite obvious that he's changed his voice slightly to the point where I go, that sounds uncomfortable. It sounds uncomfortable for me. Okay. Which brings me on to my third point of why I didn't like it. Okay. While I was listening to this audiobook, I was actually packing my suitcase in Tokyo, because I was in Tokyo at the time. I was packing my suitcase while I was listening to the audiobook, because I know Serena would kill me if I didn't finish listening to it.
A 2-hour audiobook, right? Like, if I give you a week, you should be able to finish a 2-hour audiobook.
So I did. I listened to it while I was packing. I was trying to, multitask.
Which is one of the things I said is one of the advantages of listening to an audiobook is that you don't have to sit down and, focus on reading a book. You can be doing other things like washing dishes or packing a bag.
Yeah, unfortunately, the point for me is while I was packing and I was listening to this audiobook, I found that I missed a lot of information about the book. To the point where when they actually introduced the main female lead, Langdon, I completely missed the fact that she was actually a female. Even though in the book it actually mentioned multiple times that she's a woman and describes her. It turns out I wasn't actually paying attention. I was busy doing other things. And and that's why it jarred me, because when I was listening to his Zachary Quinto's interpretation of her, I was like, why is he speaking in such a weird voice? Because he was trying to do a female voice, and it was like, and it just really ruined that experience because I couldn't tell. I was like, something's off. I can't tell what's off.
But again, this is another situation where it's more like, Peter was not used to listening to an audiobook, so therefore his mind wandered or he wasn't really concentrating or something like that. Whereas I think if you become more used to listening to audiobooks, you tend to, focus more.
Yeah, but this is
or know to rewind.
But this is when you told me that, hey, the good thing about audiobook is, hey, you can do other things while you... Look, I deliberately not do anything that requires me to write anything, to read anything, because that's gonna detract from me, and I knew that, so I was like, hey, packing, perfect time. So that's what I did. I packed, and I listened. And no, I still missed heaps of information that I would deem actually important. And that's the one thing that I really found annoying with audiobooks. When I'm reading and I skim read. I can't read every single word and be completely focused on every single word. And I admit that's fine. But when I'm reading a book and I skim read, I can miss out on information that, hey, I know this section's not going to be relevant to me because it's descriptions, lots and lots and lots of descriptions. I'll just go back to the next part, which I can see, hey, there's information that I need to know. It's natural for me anyway, for a reader to be able to skip those things. For an audiobook, if I miss something, it's because I either didn't listen, I couldn't hear it properly, or my mind was wandering off somewhere. And by the time I realized, hey, I don't actually get what they're saying, I'm kind of confused of where I am. By the time, it's too late. I have to actually get off and go back and rewind, and I don't know how far to rewind anyway. It's just like, how far is this going to get before I go back to where I needed to the information? And then you listen to other things that is of no relevance, and you're like, yes, I've heard that already, I don't need to know, I just need to find that piece of information that I just missed. And it takes really hard to get that information when you don't know where it is on an audiobook. Whereas a book, I can go, yep, it's that last page which I just missed. I can go back to the page and it's really quick for me to find it. So yes, I do not appreciate that in an audiobook because it really frustrates me, and I always miss things that I deem important but I couldn't find it again. And
I think we probably need to progress to the next, my next suggestion for Peter would be to try and read a book that also have audio sync. Was it Whisper Sync? Sorry, from Amazon, where you get both the ebook and the audiobook, and it keeps track of both. You can listen to an audiobook and it will highlight the bits in the ebook as you go along. And if you ever miss it, you could just flip through the ebook and you could go back to the place where you're reading, and it will continue reading from whatever point you decide to flip your pages to. So, I mean, in that sense, it might help with our podcast because we can do searches in ebooks, not paper books that Peter likes, where you actually need to, flip through physical pages and can't search and all that kind of stuff. Anyway, let's stop giving Peter crap about that.
Anyway, so I have my issues with audiobook, but what I will say is I can see the benefits, and I can totally see it's going to be very useful if I've already read the book and I'm going to, and I just wanted to have a refresh of the book in my mind.
Yeah.
Then I can totally see its benefit, because by the time I'm rereading or I'm re-listening to this book in this case, I already have in my mind what each character sounds like. I already know all the important things. I know who the characters are. I don't need to be paying attention to, who did that person say? Well, that's the thing. I'm sure when you're listening to certain people say something, sometimes whether it's by accent or whether it's just by clarity, you miss sometimes what people are saying, or you mishear sometimes what people are saying.
Yep.
And that happens. And in this case, if it's an audiobook, I don't know what it is. I don't know what I misheard. Did I listen to that correctly? I don't know. So maybe I have to go back and I have to reread that letter. I have to reread that sentence anyway. So
if a narrator mumbles something, you won't know.
Not that in this case it did, right? But that can be a problem if I do listen to more podcasts or audiobooks. Sorry. Anyway, so that's just one of the few things why I have an issue with audiobooks. Okay, and I'm sure Serena would agree they're legitimate reasons, some of them.
Yeah, some of them are legitimate reasons. Others I feel is more of you need more experience listening to audiobooks.
Okay. I think that's enough about me harping on my experience with audiobooks. I think I've given... I think every viewer has already gathered what my view of audiobooks are, so I think we can go past that and actually go back to the main topic for today, and which is...
actually talk about the book.
We'll actually talk about the book. So the audiobook that we are doing today is called The Dispatcher
by John Scalzi.
by John Scalzi.
And what the book is about is essentially it's a detective novel, but also a sci-fi because it's based in a world where the premise is people can't be murdered. They come back if you're murdered.
I think it's people say people can't die. Well, no, actually, that's not true.
They die.
They
and
die.
Come back.
They come. Yes. Basically, the premise of the show is, if you commit suicide,
You die.
you die.
If you
die by an accident,
You die.
You die.
If you die from old age, just naturally, or
Natural
any natural
causes, you die. In this world, the only supernatural thing that happens is if someone deliberately kills
Cause
you,
your death, yep.
cause your death, you
There's,
come back to life
Yeah.
for some unknown
There's
reason.
only 1 in 1,000 chance that you will actually die.
Yeah,
Or 999 other times, you will come back.
yeah,
You will arrive back safely in your bed at home.
yeah. So that's the premise of this novel. Everything else is how we know it as today,
Yeah.
and that's the only sci-fi part of the show.
Okay, I guess here's the point where we say spoiler alert, and I know with the last minute thing, we're only telling you now that we've changed our topic, and I didn't actually tweet it. I guess I really should have tweeted it earlier on, but
And again, I said I apologize to everyone because I really meant to watch Stranger Things, but I just didn't have time.
and I hope people would give this book a go. As I said, it's only a 2-hour, short story, and it's available for free and Audible. Listen to it first before listening to the rest of the episode if you don't want to get spoiled.
By the way, if I can do it, everyone can do it.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, anyone else who has to travel to and from work, a couple of days transport, commuting, you'd get through the book quickly. Okay, so I guess we should start off with, because I want to end on a positive note, what didn't you like about the book, story-wise?
Okay, what didn't I like about the book? Okay, the premise of the book is that if someone deliberately kills you, you will you die, but then you resurrect back in your home, right? So
Yep.
that's the way the book the phenomenon. Look, by the way, the phenomenon is not explained in the book at all. It doesn't try to explain, and it doesn't give you a big spiel about what science fiction methods that this happens, okay?
There's no explanation. The characters themselves don't know why this
the character actually tells you, we don't know why this happens, but it just has happened. And it just tells you, if you die, or if someone deliberately tries to kill you, you will reappear at your home, and that's it, okay?
And I think that's where the weakness lies, is the fact that at the end of the book they explain to you the reason why you appear at home and not anywhere else is because you actually reappear in the place where you feel safest after you die. And I think it was a bit...
It was a bit of a stretch because, to be completely honest, does everyone feel safest at home? I like personally, I would ask that question. Is everyone's safest place at home? I would argue that probably doesn't happen for most people. Yes, that's probably true, but surely there are people who actually don't feel safest at home.
Yeah.
That would not be their, oh my god, something's happened, I need to go home. Like, there's bound to be other places. Look, for example, completely religious people, I would suggest the safest place would probably be the church or something like that. And that it doesn't really explain that concept very well in this book because it is a short story, to be fair. It doesn't have a lot of time to explain phenomena and whatnot. But by just saying, people die and then they resurrect back in their home, that's because that's where they feel the most safest. It tended to be a bit of a simplified and a bit of a stretch. Sometimes it doesn't really work.
Well, I mean, it was part of the storyline that one of the characters in the book died and did not go home, and that showed that she no longer felt home was safe. That was a main story plot, and it wasn't explained to us until the end of the book, so that it was like a revelation for the readers. It was supposed to be a twist, and I feel that it was a little
Forced?
well, it was a little weak. But I guess it was one of those situations where we only felt it was weak after we tried to analyze it or think about it. While we're reading it...
While I was listening to the book, I thought, oh, that makes so much sense. And then when I think about it, I was like, wait, wouldn't people have realized that earlier? So the way it was told through the audiobook was you didn't know that people only reappeared in their home because that was where they feel the safest until later in the book.
Yes.
In the initial part of the book, they only told you, oh, people just reappear at the home.
Yeah,
and they stopped it at that.
Bed, yeah.
So they don't explain it's because they felt safest at home. That's why they reappear there.
Yeah. But they also questioned it in the book. In the book, is like, well, if it's a mythical thing, if God was the one who zapped you back at home, how would they know what your address was? What was your your latest address? How would it know?
Yeah.
It was kind of left a bit,
they deliberately they left it open-ended so that they can come back and say, well, this is why you go back there. But at the end of the day, once we go back and listen to it, it's kind of like, well, it does feel a bit kind of forced upon us to accept that. I don't know.
Yeah, okay. No, well, yes, that was... I mean, we both agree that was a little bit weak in that thing. And it felt more like it was done that way as a story plot, right?
Yeah.
Because we needed to know... We needed to be given a reason why certain things happened the way they did, why the woman... this is like the spoiler here, right? Like, why the woman... Why was it Jimmy Albert decided to help Elaine Woolwich to kill herself? Because he realized that she no longer felt home was safe, and therefore, he was willing to help her commit suicide. I mean, but yeah, okay. So that's
that is one thing that we didn't like. Okay, which wasn't, to be fair, that probably wasn't the first thing that annoyed me the most. I think what annoyed me the most when I first listened to the audiobook was the introduction of the female lead, Detective Langdon. And as I said, it took me a while to realize that Detective Langdon was actually female, for one, and so the voice acting kind of threw me off a bit when I was listening to it. But even when I actually figured that she was actually female, she was a female detective questioning Valdez, who's
Valdez, the main guy,
the main character. The way the interaction started really annoyed me.
Yeah, I mean, I think instead of saying that her voice annoyed you, I think
her character annoyed me.
Because she is the character that is questioning Valdez about, how dispatchers work and why they do things the way they did. And she is a bit... I felt she was a very naive policewoman.
Very naive, completely naive.
Like, she would ask Valdez, what are the grey stuff that you do, the things that are not exactly legal. She'll ask him, and then she gets surprised when he answers and tells her that there is such things, that there are, what the grey market stuff are. And I'm like, wait, how long have you been a detective? Do you not realize that the world has
grey areas? It's like, it's not, especially now that we've got this phenomenon where you try to kill someone and they come back to life. Surely there's a lot of things that can become very grey in this area.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, like, in this world where everyone supposedly knows about dispatchers and knows, like, this guy's in the middle of the road, this woman gets hit by a bus, and he's like, I am a legal dispatcher, and I will be,
dispatching this lady so that she can come back to life.
And everyone on the street understands that. for such a well-known phenomenon, you'd reckon that police officers would be trained, would be notified and educated on what it involves. But in this book, because Langdon is like the plot, the device by which the readers learn about this world, she's very
simple. She questions everything that he does.
And he can explain.
And so in that second chapter he explains very thoroughly and very detailedly why it's okay for dispatchers to do what they do.
And in a way, it's okay because we do need to learn this stuff. But what I have trouble with is then she becomes very indignant about things that are happening, like why things are happening the way they are, or like the things that people do. And I have a problem with that. Like,
for example, she asked Lennon, so what you're doing is you're actually killing the person. You're actually killing this person. In order, and he says, yes, that's what I do. I kill the person so that they come back to life. But she harps on so much about the fact that, but you're killing the person. Isn't that right?
Yeah.
Aren't you killing? And how can you live with yourself that you're killing this person? And he's like, well, I've been tested and trained to deal with what I'm doing, and this is my job. And then and the way the character is described becomes so preachy. Like she becomes like, you reckon, like, are you a cop or are you a preacher?
And
I couldn't tell the difference. Like the way she just kept harping on it, she wouldn't let go of those things. She's like, wait, like you're a cop, shouldn't you understand that life?
Well, I think this is the problem, right? Because this is a short story, they can't have too many characters floating around. So, and this book is about exploring this world and exploring this premise of what happens in this world where people can't be murdered. And so you have these people whose sole job is to murder people so that they could come back. And I guess they need to explore all the moralities behind it and all the possibilities, what people would do, what secondary markets are created and what opportunities are made because of this. And because they don't have another character they could use as a mouthpiece, this cop is used as the thing to, as the person to question all these, who voices these questions and voices these concerns and forces the main character to explain and justify these things. But again, it doesn't work when the woman is a cop and she's asking him, what the grey areas are, and when he admits that there are grey areas, she then says, tell me that you've never done this. Tell me you've never conducted these things. And
when it's pretty, well, not pretty clear, but as a cop you should realize that the life is not black and white. There are very grey areas in the world, and
well, not just that. I mean, as a cop, if you want this person to give you information, sometimes you got to look the other way.
Yeah.
And then when you're outraged or indignant about the things that they're telling you, well, it just doesn't seem. Why are you asking?
Yeah.
Why are you doing? Why should this person answer your questions when everything that they say you're being judgy and like preachy? As you said. Yeah.
And I guess the one other problem I had with this particular scene was it felt like it came way too early in the story. Like, when we're listening to Langdon's explanation of, Valdez's explanation of what a dispatcher does, why he does it. He's killing these people so he can bring them back to life. When she asks him all these questions, he explains it in a very calm and kind of detached way. He doesn't have a lot of emotion. You can't really tell whether he really means what he says, because we don't know him. We don't know the character very well. This is the second chapter. We've only known him from the first chapter and a bit into the second chapter, and that's all we know about him. It's very short. And again, I understand this is a short story. There's not that much time to develop.
This is the kind of scene that you think should happen later on in the book, after we've seen both characters, how they work, how they think, and then you have this scene where they kind of both try to argue their point of view and how they feel the world should work.
Yeah.
But considering this is the second chapter, we don't care too much about the character. We don't care enough about the characters to care about the discussion.
Yeah. So for us, it's more like, oh, why are you doing this? I'm doing this because A, B, and C, and we take it on face value. Okay, he said A, B, C. That's what he said. So I'm just going to say, okay, sure.
We
why
just
not?
have to take what they say.
We just have to take what they say. It would have
At face
worked.
value, yeah.
It would have worked much better if we see Valdez do what he does and be convinced in why he does it.
Yep.
And so then we can say, yes, I agree with why his motivation is like that, and
Yep.
therefore I agree with why he's arguing against Langdon with certain issues in this world. It will make much more sense. At the moment, it's like, I'm going to argue this, I'm going to argue the other way, and it's just like, and I'm just like, I've only been in this argument for the last 5 minutes, so I don't really know why you guys are saying that, or I don't know enough of you two to kind of make a judgment, so I'm just going to go, okay, this is not that interesting to me.
Yeah, we're not emotionally connected to them.
And I found the second chapter too, which is really annoying because I love the first chapter. That second chapter really threw me off because it made me go like, I don't want to listen to more of this. Like, if this is what the book is going to be like, it felt like I don't want to listen to more of this because it's just like two people arguing. I don't care about the argument.
Yeah.
Thankfully, it doesn't happen. The book does get much better from then on. I just have to say that I didn't like this chapter. So for those of you who do listen to this and didn't like the chapter, you're not the only one.
Well, I mean, it's not. The second chapter was also weak because this is where they try to force Valdez into the case, right? Like, they had to give him a reason to be involved in this case, and his character was written in such a way that he didn't really care about the missing colleague of his, which is like the whole point of this book, right? There's a missing dispatcher, and they had to find out why he's missing or where he's gone. And this second chapter also give us an explanation or give us a reason why Valdez is involved, is because
he introduced the missing dispatcher to some grey area.
No, that's not the reason why he was strong-armed into it. How he was strong-armed into it was because a woman was hit by a bus in front of them, essentially, and he had to do his job as a dispatcher, but he didn't have his equipment on him, so therefore he needed to borrow the cop's gun. And the cop essentially said, I'm not going to lend you my gun to save this person. I'm not going to lend you my gun unless you agree to help me solve this case. And I felt it was not it did not do Langdon's character justice.
Any favor at all.
Yeah, because, I mean, like, as a cop, you'd reckon she would care about a person's well-being. And, like, that woman's only chance was to get shot so that she could be resurrected, because she got hit by a bus and it was pretty much obvious that this woman is not going to survive. And because it's a bus, she was hit by a bus, it was an accident. So...
Actually, just we didn't talk about this beforehand, but do you think Langdon actually have done, like, would she?
You reckon it was a bluff?
Yeah. Like, do you think she would have actually done the act of killing her so she can be resurrected if he wasn't there? From the way she was portrayed in that second chapter.
But I don't think she knows, right? From the way she's portrayed in the second chapter, where she doesn't seem to know anything about, like, dispatches. Like, she seems to have the barest knowledge that people come back when they're killed.
Yeah.
Like, I don't...
You don't think she knows enough to kind of do the act?
Well, that's the thing.
Well, that's the problem in this book, because as a cop, you would think that this is not a new phenomenon. Apparently, in this world, the phenomenon has been happening quite a long time. Yeah. So people know about it. So you would think that cops should have some idea.
Well, you reckon because there's only a limited number of dispatchers around, that just like dispatchers should not be the only people with the ability to kill people, like with the legal right to kill people so that they can be resurrected. You reckon that people like cops or doctors should be given that right, where like, oh my God, there's an accident and this woman's going to die. The only way to save her is to shoot her in the head or do something, right? Like, doctors have a a moral code, right, where they say that they always try to save someone, which is why in movies and stuff, when someone has a heart attack, the first thing people say, is there a doctor around? And then a doctor tries to save them, right? So you reckon that doctors and cops or something, you know, actual trained people should be allowed to do this dispatching. But in this world, apparently the only people who are allowed to do that are dispatchers. I mean, I guess this is why this is a short story, right? There are certain
loopholes and missing bits in the
like,
story.
Yeah, like you just have to go with it, right?
By the way, really sorry about the hissing noise behind us because there's a coffee machine that's being cleaned at the moment.
Well, I mean, we can't blame them. I mean, it's McDonald's, it's one something. They don't expect people to be
recording.
Oh, wow, it's actually one something. We are running out of time. Okay, so just quickly, another thing. Is there any other thing about this book that you didn't like? So we can start moving on to something that we do like. Well, there was that thing about... Okay, I didn't like how Valdez didn't seem to have... like, he finds out his colleague's missing, and he doesn't really seem to care. Or, like, he didn't seem to want to help the cop. And I found that a little bit problematic, because for me, I'm used to books where the main character would want to do something about it. Like, you know, you find out someone's missing, you wouldn't want to be like, that's got nothing to do with me. You know, get someone else to help you or something like that. It just felt a little bit... He felt like a prick for saying that.
Yeah. Whereas when I read it, I thought it was completely irrational for the cop to assume that this colleague of his is going to be able to do all this thing for her just because... Okay, this is before that we know that Valdez actually introduced
Jimmy
Albert into all these dodgy deals. Like, this is way before we knew any of that. I think it was inappropriate and in some ways
okay.
Okay.
Means here is that
it doesn't make sense to assume that a colleague is going to know detailed information about another colleague. And the reason why I say it is because if one of my colleagues at work had been missing, and I'll be you know, kind of surprised.
Peter will be the pricky person who will be like saying, no, I'm not going to help you because he's only a colleague.
Well, no, because I don't know enough information about a colleague of mine. Even if you ask me, is that colleague a friend of yours? Yes. I'm friendly with that person. Yes, he's my friend. We work together. We see each other pretty much every single day.
But it doesn't mean I know what he does. It doesn't mean I know.
It doesn't mean I know anything about him personal. You know, I know his name. I probably know if he has a family, maybe. But that's about it. It doesn't necessarily mean I know any intimate information about that is going to be helpful. And it doesn't, and I certainly wouldn't expect some cop to come and ask me, oh, your colleague has been missing, we need to come and help you find him. How about no? I don't know enough information for me to go, yeah, sure, let me help you. Look, it's a colleague of mine. It's not even like, I wouldn't even be able to say it's a close friend of mine. And in the book, he says, I am only friendly with the guy. And when someone tells you, I'm only friendly with the guy, I don't know him really that well, that's kind of an indication that I'm not going to be able to give you much information. And the way Langdon try and strong arms him into helping her, I thought it was like, that doesn't make sense. It's like, why would you naturally assume that this person is going to be able to help you with all these things? It just...
Yeah, aren't you a professional? Shouldn't you be able to find someone else to help you? No, I understand that. It's just that, from my point of view, it feels like, yeah, I understand in real life you might not know too much about your colleagues. It's just that normally in a book you don't have people who don't care that much. And Peter's squeezing me off. Well, I think we should move on to things we like about the book.
Okay, to be fair, there is a lot of positives about this book, and I must say, while I still have my issues with audiobook as a format, as I've already mentioned, I love the way Zachary Quinto portrayed Tony Valdez, the main character, especially in that first chapter. By the way, I love the first chapter. If if anything, that first chapter got me really hooked into this book.
Yep.
It was just the way he tried to explain everything and the way he portrays the character being really calm, explaining to the doctor, look, I'm only here because I'm required under law. If nothing happens, if everything goes according to plan, you won't even notice that I'm there. Like the way he tries to tone down that situation and try to placate the doctor, who was really agitated at the fact that this dispatcher was here in her operating room. She was, really annoyed and really upset about it, and he was just, being smooth and saying, I understand, that's fine, just do what you have to do. I really like his portrayal of Tony Valdez in that first chapter. It really got me into the story. I felt that was great, and there was just enough intrigue in that first chapter to kind of go, some things. Oh, by the way, I did not actually realize that this was a science fiction book, even though Serena actually did tell me. I completely missed that part, so I didn't know it was a science fiction book. So when I was listening to it, I was like, something's off about this conversation, and I don't get why it's a bit off. I'm not sure how this works. Why is this person here? And I was confused. And
when the body disappeared.
And yeah, when the operation goes south and this person was about to die, and he goes, okay, I'm going to do my job, shoots the patient in the head, and he dies, and I'm like, hey,
he delivers the payload, which is actually a bomb.
Yeah, he delivers the payload to the patient's head, it explodes, it kills him instantly, and then suddenly the body, you hear this suction sound, and then he goes, boom, disappears. And his body disappears, and I'm listening to the book going, hey, what the hell happened? I'm like, I didn't expect that at all. What? So that was really well set. The setting was very well done. I love that opening scene. Opening chapter really got me hooked to the story. I loved it, and that was probably one of the greatest introductions that I can give you if you were listening to an audiobook.
Yeah, although in saying that the body disappearing is kind of not science fiction, and it was a little bit more like magical in a way, because it's like, what? Like, under what law of physics would a body just disappear after it's been killed? Like, I just don't understand that. But that's more of a dislike than a like. Now,
but okay, I'll get to one of my other like is I did like the fact that there was, yes, it was mystical. It probably wasn't very science fiction-y. It was more magic than anything, but I liked how in this book there was only one thing you need to accept as science fiction.
The premise was fairly simple.
The premise was that if you murder someone, that person comes back to life. That's basically it. If they died natural causes, or if they commit suicide, they die. But if you kill them, deliberately killing them, that person will come back to life. And that's the only part you need to accept as truth, which I liked because it was simple enough, especially for a short audiobook.
Yeah, for a short story, yeah.
For short story, that was brilliant because that's all I needed to know. And that was great because I didn't have to go through wards and waves of information explaining why this happens, the science behind it. I just need to know, okay, if I accept this, that's the truth in
then
this world.
Then the rest of the book would make sense.
Yeah, and I liked it. That was great.
Okay. I guess something else we like, or something else, yeah, I think we both like it, is the elevator scene.
Yeah.
I mean, we both like the mafia guy, like how he gets kidnapped by the mafia, by Brennan Tunney. They have a conversation, they make a deal, you have this suave, slightly grey-ish.
Look, this is a mafia turned businessman.
Yes.
So his family has always been in the mafia business, but this guy is trying to now bring all of those things into the right side of the world.
Well, make it legit.
Yeah, making everything legit. So he's trying to get away from all of that.
But they still have bad habits. And one of the bad habits is kidnapping people, having a chat with them, and then at the end, they decide, well, we don't want people to know you're talking to us.
Yeah.
So one way to ensure that no one is
following us or looking or just trying to get information from us is to prevent people from knowing that we met at all.
Yes, and one of the ways is if people are outside this building, tagging you, making sure, trying to figure out who you've been talking to or who I've been talking to, the easiest way is for you not to walk out this building. Right? Like, you came into the building and you're not going to go out again. But how are you going to get home? Well, in this world, there's a very handy thing. If you get murdered, you return home. So we're going to push you out of an elevator shaft and you'll return home.
Because you die. And this was probably one of the most... It was funny, exciting, and quite...
amusing, entertaining. Well, I mean, it was one of the earliest scenes we see where Valdez actually shows any emotions.
Yeah.
Because he's so pissed off afterwards, and I found that was kind of funny.
Yeah, because basically he gets pushed off an elevator so that he will die, and
pushed
because
out
he
of
got
the elevator shaft, yeah,
and because he got pushed, it wasn't natural, so he will come back to life, which he does. And he obviously screams and yells and swears at, like, why am I beep being pushed down this place and whatnot. So that was very well written, and it was kind of enlightening for me because I didn't think about that at all before that scene happened.
Yeah.
It was kind of like I was listening to them telling him, oh yeah, we left your keys back at home, the information that you need is at home.
Yeah, we took the keys, we took your keys and your phone and your wallet off you for a reason, because we sent a henchman with your stuff and we left it at your home so that when you died and came back, all your stuff would be with you. Now, I thought that was kind of
cool. So it wasn't until the fact that he says, like, and you will wake up where everything is, and that's when it kind of clicks to everyone's like, oh. And then obviously the main character actually tells you, oh, I am going to die now. Great. That's just what I need.
Well, and I think that's what I liked about this book story is they explain to you how if the world, they really explored the premise on what the world would be like if this premise was true. Because, yes, that's how you could travel from one place to another without being detected. And one of the other things is that they would show, like, the duel scene, if in this world people don't die, they get murdered, of course there's going to be stupidity. And of course, university students, frat boys, will try and take advantage of this phenomenon. And I found it was, this book is really cool in showing how in this world people would really take advantage of this. Well, why would you not be involved in the duel? Because you'll come back.
Yeah, you can't die. Well, there's a very small chance that you will die. And by the way, I hated that scene. I found it to be completely moronic.
Well, that's the point, right?
Yes, I know it's the point. I still find it was moronic, and it didn't further the story in any way. I get it paints a picture for the world, which I get, but because it is a short story, I'm more looking so what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I don't care about these stupid frat boys trying to kill each other.
Whereas I found it was kind of cool because these little nuggets or little scenes will show you what else is possible. Like, it tickles my imagination and it makes me think, oh, you know what? In this world, so many other things could happen, so many other stuff. Like, Peter actually mentioned in a previous thing, well, that would make airfare really cheap. Like, well, not cheap, like, you only need a one-way
ticket.
One-way ticket anywhere because, when you want to return home, you just get someone to shoot you in the head and you return home. Well, then you wouldn't be able to get any of your stuff back.
No, then all your passports, all your visas, all your luggage is still in the other country.
You need to ship it. But anyway, shipping
things is still cheaper than a full airfare, right?
right now it still is.
Yeah.
But it's getting there. It's getting there. Did I mention how much it costs to send me that fountain pen back to Australia from Japan?
Oh God, I don't want to know.
Anyway, tangent. I think, okay, so moving on, one other thing that we liked, well, yeah, we liked it. It's a like.
It was morbid, but we liked it.
Yeah. Like in this world where you can't murder people, how would you murder someone? And the book actually explained it in a very creepy way, right? Like, you know, they mentioned it in passing that all you need was time and a location. And, you know, at first you're like,
what? I didn't get it.
I don't understand. What do you mean by time? Like, what, you're going to wait that person out until they die? I'm like, what are they talking about?
Yeah. But in actual sense, it actually does mean that. It just means you get, if you want to murder someone, you take someone, put him into a
abandoned house,
secluded area,
tie them up,
and let them starve them without water, and let them and let them basically starve themselves or be and die of thirst.
Yeah.
And when they come, and this first death is
a murder.
A murder, so they'll come back to life.
Now, the thing is with this resurrection, so to speak, your body is returned back to its state from, like, what, maximum 30 hours ago.
I think it's more like, 5 hours ago.
Well, they said 12 to 30.
Oh, 12?
Okay. Your body reverses back to what it was 12 to 30 hours ago. Now, what happened is that even if you reverse back to 30 hours ago, your body is still dehydrated. It has still sustained a lot of damage from, you know, malnutrition and lack of water or whatever.
So most likely, even if you were discovered by then, you would still die.
Yeah.
And this time, you would actually die of natural causes, as in you would die of dehydration.
Or whatever.
Assuming as if you just didn't drink water. The world doesn't know that you were dehydrated because you were murdered in the first place. So
you would die. And you won't come back. This is a natural cause. And the thing is, it's actually quite creepy when you think about it, because this person is tied up in a room and they could scream their throat hoarse and no one will know, and you will die. Yeah. And it's quite creepy. But I thought it was a really cool way. Like, it's a very creepy way to kill someone. It does kind of. Well, we actually talked about this before. And so yeah, if you were actually living in this world, you would think something like that. You was like, so how am I going to kill someone? Yeah, like, if I can't. This premise does not stop people from wanting to kill someone. No, and that's the thing. I think the way the book actually tries to bring out, was like, there are loopholes. Yeah. There are still loopholes in this world, even though it seems, this world is really good because you can't murder someone. No, there are still ways you can bypass these things and on the other end of the spectrum, I mean, just because you can't kill someone, like, this is a way for you to reset your body back 30 hours, and it explores how, even with that, you can accidentally cause harm to someone. Like, there's still a cruelty to not letting someone die, which was the main story, actually. The main idea of it was because, you know, the one of the female, what was her name again? Elaine. Her husband, like, she suffers from cancer, and her husband wants her to go and take all these, you know, medical procedures, all these medical procedures to try to save her. Yeah, to save her. But it always fails, and so the mafia guys actually get a dispatcher to kill her, so she resurrects, so she can go through the process again. Yeah. And again. And so by the end of the story, she gets to the point where she no longer feels safe with him, because not just that, she's just sick of living. Yeah, right? She's sick of living. She doesn't want to live anymore. She feels like, I actually want to do this. So the story actually ends with, the whole premise of the story is, we assume that she was murdered. In actual fact, she actually committed suicide. No. In the book, we assume that her dispatcher wasn't able to dispatch her. Yeah. It was 1 in the 1,000th chance that she died, and she died. We thought that the dispatcher, Jimmy Albert? Yeah, Jimmy Albert. we thought that because he failed in dispatching her properly, like successfully,
That's why he was,
kidnapped or something. Yeah.
But in actual fact, he was actually only helping that poor Elaine
the woman killed
to
herself.
die.
Yeah. The woman killed herself
Yeah.
because she couldn't stand coming back again and then again and again, because she only gets her body only reverses back maximum 30 hours.
Yeah.
She still has cancer.
So she's not actually getting any better. She still has all the pain. She still has all the trauma.
And that's the other thing, right? Like, even though you reverse back 30 hours, you still remember the pain. You still feel the pain of the
Bullet.
bomb detonating in your head, in your brain, supposedly. So, I mean, it's a cool exploration of this premise.
And it makes you think about it. If I had that power to stop someone from dying, would I do it, and how long will I do it for? And actually, that's something that's quite, personal for me at the moment, because I just lost someone fairly close to me as well. So it made me think, would I have done the same thing, and would I have kept doing the same thing like that? Anyway, that's another matter. I did really like the book. I liked the story. I liked parts of the characters. I do recommend this book to everyone who hasn't heard of an audiobook before. One, because it is short, so it's easy to get through. Serena?
Well, I mean, I like it because I find that I'm actually liking light science fiction books. I like explorations of different premises, like what would the world be like if such and such thing happened, or if such and such thing were possible, without having to go too deeply into like the mechanics or the science or the theory behind it. So I really enjoyed this book, and of course, it was narrated by Zachary Quinto, and I like him, and I like John Scalzi, so this is a merging of two things that I like, and so I like the book.
Would you read the book if it was longer, or if it was or if it was set in the same world but just a different story kind of thing?
I would read it if it was a longer book. Would I read it now that I've read this short story? I don't know whether it's possible to write another story in this world, because I would feel, the whole idea of people not being murdered, not being able to be murdered, is a perfect setting for a detective story. And you had one. And can you redo another one? I don't know. I guess it depends whether another one.
I'm interested if there was one, but as you said, I probably won't be interested in reading a different story, because the premise is already known to us. We already know what it's about. Yeah. I would love to see if it was an expanded story from this, but again, I don't know how.
Well, we know the ending already.
Yeah, I know, right?
Expanded
it's something. Anyway, so that's our review of The Dispatcher.
Well, okay, wait, no, let me ask you a question. Would you read another one of John Scalzi's book?
Book or audiobook?
Book.
Sure. Yeah. Audiobook, I still need to think about it, especially if it's a longer one. I would really need to think about it.
Well, no, if it's a longer audiobook, I will not ask you to read a John Scalzi book, because John Scalzi do tend to do a lot of he says, she says.
Yeah.
And that might drive you completely insane. He's saying that it might actually numb your brain from ever being able to hear the words he said, she said. But, that's... But a lot of John Scalzi books are narrated by Will Wheaton. I like Will Wheaton.
True. Anyway, we hope you enjoyed this episode of Trigger Point.
Well, okay. You can contact us via Twitter on triggerpoint.fm. You can contact us on our website, which is triggerpointfm.com. And email address triggerpointfm@gmail.com. So and leave us reviews on iTunes. Tell people about us, because we need more listeners.
Once again, we apologize for the sound quality for this episode.
I realized we were sitting actually underneath a speaker and playing a lot of background music. So
we do apologize for that. We promise our next one will be back at our studio, where everything will be nicely monitored and everything will be in perfect conditions.
Well, if anything, I could use this as an excuse and not actually have to edit this episode at all and just post it as is.
Yeah. There's actually going to be no editing, because because we can't actually edit this now. So this is a one-off thing.
I'll try.
Yeah.
But okay, so what are we going to do for our next episode?
Okay, next time we will be doing Stranger Things. I promise everyone that.
Wow.
We will be doing Stranger Things. I will be watching it as soon as I get back to Melbourne. So yes, stay tuned for next episode.
Okay then. I'll see you next month.
Next month? Okay.
Bye.
Bye everyone.